I'm Dr. Osterhout. Too often we don't learn about why we get sick. We hear about medications and medical remedies and natural things we can do. The narrative should be what's causing my health issue. And so these are some of the things that we know, scientifically speaking, can cause disease or are the drivers of disease, but some things that we know that are good for us. On the outside of the circle here, you'll see that these are the things that are good for us. Of course, exercise oxygenates the body, oxygenates the brain, strengthens the immune system. Adequate sun and vitamin D. The back in the 80s, the 90s, the research said we should stay out of the sun and we should lather up with toxic sunscreen. That's poor science. The real science is that we evolved with the sun. We need the sun. We need adequate levels of vitamin D to have the body function the way they're supposed to. So we want that. Sleep's important. During the night, your brain goes through different frequencies, and different frequencies do different things. But if you don't get adequate sleep, you don't detoxify your brain. And if you don't detoxify your brain, we know there's an incidence, a higher incidence of dementia and Alzheimer's. Hydration, sure, we need to drink more water. Not tons of water, but we need good, clean water. And of course, coffee and juices don't qualify. And healing foods. And when I say healing foods, just because it's a food that you've heard is good for you or bad for you, there's a whole nother dynamic to foods that no one talks about, and that's food sensitivities, and we'll get to that in a minute. Family and friends, community is so important just to nourish our souls. We were made to have community and to be in fellowship. And of course, meditation. Meditation is great for reducing stress. Meditation is just like, it's like if you're exercising your bicep and you do it 3 times a week, your bicep gets bigger, it gets stronger. So the approaches on the outside of the ring here are all things that we should be doing. But this is where we have to dig down a little bit deeper, because these are the drivers of disease right here. And oftentimes I get patients, all too often, that do exercise. They do have a nice tan. They're coming up from Florida. They sleep, they drink water, they take care of themselves, but they still have a heart attack. They still get diabetes. They still have a skin condition, a digestive issue. So then we have to look deeper. And when I say look deeper, we have to talk about your genetic predispositions. And so what that means is we all have some genes that are very healthy and good for us, and we all have some genes that if we turn on those genes will cause disease and will make us sick. And so then we have to say, well, what's going to turn on the genes that make me sick? They're called environmental triggers and this thing called hyperpermeable bowel or leaky gut. Now, the research is very clear, the science has been clear for over 20 years now, that these 2 factors activate your genes, and your genes turn on and cause the disease process. It could be lupus, it could be diabetes, it could be multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, cancers, cardiovascular disease, you name it. These 2 things have to be a component to turn on your genes. Now, we could be doing all these wonderful things, and this could still take place. We have to address the drivers of disease. And the issue is if we don't address those drivers, you will have disease. So food sensitivities, it's not good food and bad food. It's, are you reacting to the food you eat? Has your immune system acquired that protein and attacked it, which causes inflammation? Chemicals, we are inundated with over 80,000 chemicals every year. Many of those have never been tested by the FDA for safety. So we have to be very cautious about what we expose ourselves to, but we also always have to be detoxifying. We always have to support the body to detoxify the way it's supposed to. And of course, pathogens. We learned a lot about pathogens here, COVID and the drama associated with it. We know people who are healthy and have healthy immune systems get through this COVID-19 drama very nicely. And if you're struggling or have comorbidities or pre-existing conditions, that could be a big concern. So viruses, bacteria, fungus, parasites all play a role. Environmental triggers. And the next concern is leaky gut, or what we call hyperpermeable bowel. And that is what we can say is another pandemic, because our GI tracts, we were never meant to have exposures to the daily contaminants, whether it's pesticides or herbicides, fungicides, fertilizers, growth hormones, antibiotics, steroids, genetically modified foods, too much sugar, too much stress, too much coffee. All these things start to damage a tight junction in the gut, and you get holes and perforations. And now when you're eating a food, it goes right through into your bloodstream, and when that food protein gets into your bloodstream, your immune system attacks it and causes inflammation. hence the environmental trigger. So it doesn't matter if it's an organic carrot or if it's wheat. Your immune system is going to see it, identify, attack it, and cause inflammation. And we know inflammation is the secret silent killer. So leaky gut, hyperpermeable bowel, environmental trigger, activate your genes, and that is where you get sick. So we love all these things, but if you're not going after the drivers of disease, I've never met someone who could out-exercise a disease process, even though I grew up and I thought I could, because nobody told me anything else except exercise is good for you. These are great for you, but it's not going to stop the disease process. That's why at Vitality Healthcare, we focus on this and we identify with our lab work, our unique testing. And when we address these, this is where we get our success stories.